experience for me tonight to be here with so many of my friends. Today would have been my father's 83rd birthday, so it has a special meaning, and it's nice to be with so many wonderful people in our town. So with that said, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Councilwoman Aldersley.
Here.
Councilwoman Esley.
Councilwoman Esley asked me to inform her that she had to be out of town on a longstanding commitment due to the fact that the meeting was changed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Marasco.
Present.
Councilman Perticone.
Here.
Supervisor DeRizio.
Here.
And Attorney for the Town, Cresac.
Here.
Thank you.
At this time, it gives me a great pleasure to conduct a ceremony, and I would like, please, Officer John Ballasty and his family to come forward with the chief and anyone else. This is a family moment. I get all of our other guys in blue here for the room. All right, you already know the routine. The hands on the Bible, the right hand lifted, and I'd like you to repeat after me, please. I, John P. Ballasty,
I, John P. Ballasty,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will defend the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of New York.
and of the state of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws of the state of New York
I will enforce all of the laws of the state of New York
and the town of Arundecoit.
and the town of Arundecoit.
I will fulfill the duties of the rank of sergeant
Fulfill the duties of the rank of sergeant
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will obey all of the orders,
I will obey all of the orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
of the Arundecoit.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I will serve,
I will serve,
protect,
protect,
and guide the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
guide the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
Congratulations. Yes, he has to sign, and then Barb will attest to it. So on the first line, your signature, the date on the filing line. Thank you, Chief. Let's give these right to Barb. And if you would please have some.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I'd just like to say, 14 years ago, I started here in Arundecoit. It was a move for me from another department to an agency that I thought was a very aggressive and proactive agency, which is what I was looking for. I have to admit that since I've been here, I have not regretted 1 minute of being in the service of the town of Arundecoit, and I appreciate all the gentlemen that I work with, all the residents that I can serve and protect, and I also want to give special thanks to my wife and family, who has been with me through my entire career, through all the good times and the bad. And I just want to say thank you guys. I love you very much, and God bless everybody.
I'd like to welcome John to my command staff. I'm sure you have the respect of all the officers in the department, and by their turnout here, I think that's a great showing. So welcome aboard, welcome on your new assignment, and prepare for things to change on your career.
Do you want to do your other awards? Okay.
We'd like to give out some two special awards to two of our police officers that earn these awards throughout the year and their accommodations, and I'd like to present those awards at this particular meeting in front of the town board and in front of our citizens in the town. So
Thanks, Chief. Can we have Officer Andrew Whitaker and Officer Anthony DeFanti come forward, please? The Arundecoyt Police Department Commendation Award may be presented to an officer of the Arundecoyt Police Department who distinguishes himself or herself by an exemplary achievement, act, or service to the department performed in a manner substantially beyond normal expectations in similar circumstances, or who performs an extraordinarily credible and unusual police accomplishment. Now, during the latter part of November of 2011, the Arby's restaurant located at 1802 East Ridge Road was the scene of two separate gunpoint robberies. In each case, a similarly described suspect, armed with a handgun, ordered employees and customers to the floor, removed money from the cash register, and forced a manager to open the safe. Now, due to these robberies, Officer Andrew Whitaker gave extra patrol attention to the Arby's restaurant, and on December 4th, 2011, Officer Whitaker observed a suspicious person who closely matched the description of the robbery suspect on a bicycle near the Arby's restaurant. Officer Whitaker made contact with the subject and was assisted by Officer DeFanti. As Officer Whitaker attempted to conduct a pat-down search of the subject for weapons, the subject began to resist and attempted to draw a handgun from his waistband. Although potentially justified to use deadly force, Officers Whitaker and DeFanti attempted to take physical control of the subject. A violent struggle ensued, with the subject punching both officers and Officer DeFanti numerous times in the head. Despite the violent fight, the officers were able to take the subject to the ground, dislodge a weapon from his hand, and take him into custody. And after the subject was handcuffed, the officers determined at that time that the gun possessed by the subject was in fact only a pellet gun, but it looked like a very real weapon to the officers at the time. It was determined through a subsequent investigation that the subject had committed the first two robberies at the Arby's restaurant and was at the location that night to commit yet a third robbery. For their courage in a violent and dangerous situation, and for the great restraint they displayed, Officer Andrew Whitaker and Officer Anthony DeFanti are awarded the Arundecoyt Police Department Commendation Award. Congratulations.
just one thing I want to say before we conclude here. This happens to be Captain Corbett, who was standing here a minute ago next to me, is retiring next week from the department. He spent 32 years with the department, worked his way up through from patrolman to investigator to sergeant investigator to lieutenant and to captain. He's fulfilled several duties and worked on many cases to a successful conclusion. This department and this town is going to miss him and his ability and his skills. And I wish Captain Corbett nothing but the best of luck in his future career. He's taken on a second career. Obviously, he's too young to retire and stay home. But he's taken on a second career. He's found himself another career, which is going to be very fruitful for him. And I just want to say thank you, Captain. You've been a true companion, and I'm going to miss you.
Thank you, Chief, and it is so wonderful to see so many of our officers here in support. I also would like to remind you it's time for me to do some ride-alongs, and I know that whoever gets stuck with me is always teased, but I look forward to riding patrol again. So when you wish to take me on, I'm more than able and ready. Thanks, guys. Stressing tonight, we're getting down to a deadline, and I want to remind our seniors that 1 week from today, March 1st, is the last day for completing your exemptions. Also, anyone who has bought a home within the last year must also apply for the Basic Star exemption by March 1st. Please, children who monitor their parents' finances should check to make sure the paperwork has been completed in the assessor's office. If any resident has any question about filing, please call the assessor's office. Starting back in last October, I sent letters to all the residents who had qualified before. We have been posting it on ICAT, Facebook, on the website, in my column, and I have to commend our assessor's office for calling over 600 residents in the last 2 weeks to remind them to fill out their exemptions form. Also, the newest issue of Images is available online and at various locations throughout towns, such as the library branches, Pine Grove Center, Town Hall. 46 new programs for youth and families were developed for the spring and summer. New opportunities include art, cooking and fitness classes, and science programs. We have applied for a grant to expand youth programs. For additional information, please call the Parks and Recreation Department. As you recall, a few years ago, we were doing 4 issues of Images and mailing them. And is typical, we have a generation that does not want to have as much paper. They're requesting that things be more digital, and this is a compromise. I still had individuals calling me saying, why are we still doing printed images? But we still have a significant number of people who enjoy that printed edition. Those of you who wish to go on to the website, it's great. It's like looking at the actual magazine with tabs, and the pages flip like a magazine, and also various locations throughout town. I was hoping we would have some copies out here tonight, and maybe before the evening's out, we'll make sure we have multiple copies here. Mr. O'Brien, is that possible? Thank you very much. And this statistic just really surprised me. Within the last year, 33,000 Irondequoit residents used their library cards. 33,000 out of 52,000 residents. Now, I'm sure the babies and infants don't have them, but that is a significant number. And I would encourage all of our residents to please obtain your new library card. And if your wallet's full of too many cards, they also have the little key card that goes on your keychain, and that's great. We are proud to announce the expanded hours at both branches, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 9, Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturday, 10 to 5. So please take advantage of the offerings. You deserve them. A library is the heart of a town where everybody connects and meets, and also expands our knowledge and understanding of the world around us. And with that, let us begin public input. Stacy Albach.
Good evening, Stacy Albach, 44 Montclair. I missed you guys. I haven't seen you in a few months. Tonight I come with heavy heart, but hope. Hello. Tonight I come with heavy heart, but hope. Though I am saddened by Judge Siragusa's decision in favor of Verizon, appalled by the St. Paul Fire District's complete and utter disregard for their neighbors, which started this whole mess, I am buoyed by the hard work of this board to protect our interests. I thank you. But now that Verizon is about to become my neighbor, I hope that they will be a good neighbor. No matter if a person mindfully searches for the perfect place to call home, wins their way in through a vigorous bidding war to get the home of their dreams, or bullies their way in via a mean-spirited lawsuit to prove a point, they are our neighbors. In this loving and warm community, people strive to be neighborly, keep up the conditions of their homes, make improvements to their homes and to their neighborhoods to maintain the beauty that is Irondequoit, and the reason so many of us moved here. I hope my new neighbor will take careful note of how we do things around here. We work together, we cooperate, we do this for each other for the benefit of all. If a neighbor needs help, we help. As the town is forced to grant the special use permit, I hope that Verizon steps up to be the good neighbor we deserve. As a part of that same group of neighbors who fought passionately to preserve the quaint beauty and safety that is our neighborhood, I will welcome Verizon and beseech them to be the good neighbor and not continue to be the big bully that forced their way in. I thank you for your hard and underappreciated work.
Thank you. Peter Kelderhaus.
Pete
Oh, you come
Kelderhouse
with a
Senior.
notebook.
At my age, I have to have it written. Pete Kelderhouse Senior, 19 Favara Circle. I'm a proud resident of Irondequoit, moving here by choice in 1979. Just yesterday, I was enjoying a great day, and then an article in the Irondequoit Post clouded that day. Knowing who was the author of the article, I should have just skipped it. The negative tone, the between-the-line outright lies, caused me to pause, and why it is only this person who continually sends threatening emails to those who speak at town board meetings in favor of a project and states, and I quote, "Our town has been ruined by poorly educated and unqualified elderly officials who are loyal to their political masters, not to their friends and neighbors," unquote. The article gives no positive advice, just a normal negative, and I don't care if it's true, says the author, as this author is just exercising his right of free speech. In closing, number one, I'm going to write an article back to the Post, so when I look at all these lies, I can kind of give the facts out. But I would like to give the author of this article, little of value has been accomplished in Irondequoit, is the article, some positive advice. Sell your house and move to another town. Move from our town that you state, and I quote, "Irondequoit is a second-rate town, and Irondequoit that will never change. You have been given the freedom of choice by the members of our armed forces. Make that choice. You will not be missed."
I don't know if I dare tell the story, but I had a resident email me, and he was upset because this is a first-rate town. And he wanted to know why we didn't qualify like other towns to be occupied. So he wanted to make me be fully aware that he was occupying the town of Irondequoit. He said it's a little bit chilly right now, that he's looking forward to a little bit more climate in which he can do his occupying. But he wanted us to be assured that he would be found occupying Jack's Place, Shamrock Jack's, Marge's, and Bill Gray's. So I wrote back to him laughing and said, "And when you're at Bill Gray's, please get me a chocolate almond custard in a cup, no cone." So it's nice to know we have people with a sense of humor and give us a lift in spite of those negativities. Richard Barone.
Richard Barone, 154 Allwood Drive. In the images we received, the town supervisor states, "The images covers important information for the common good of the town." I agree. However, in the Runnequoit Post, the supervisor stated that the images is disseminated through the Runnequoit Post and its subscribers. In talking to the Runnequoit Post today, their circulation is about 10,000 or more, little more perhaps. That represents 50% of the town. So 50% of the town, 10,000 homes, approximately 20 to 25,000 residents do not get the images. To expect them to all go to the library, I think is not really practicable. Also, according to the AARP, 80% of the seniors do not have access to the internet. Please reconsider the fact that you do not send the images to all the homes in this town. I think you have some surplus monies from last year, according to the controller, and so far this year you've had a light snow plowing days, so you may have some surplus this year. I can't believe it would be that costly. Also, recently a federal judge, for the first time in the history of this town that I can recall, a federal judge, Charles Siragusa, ruled that the town board, and this is an important word, willfully, if you look at the definition of willfully, it means intentionally disregarded the law. You don't see that often. You see that in criminal cases a lot. I've never seen that in print in condemning a town board. DeRizio was quoted as, Supervisor DeRizio was quoted as, "You were representing the residents." Sounds good. Where is that same fervor? Where is that same fervor to represent the residents of Titus Avenue and Willow Creek? Where's that fervor against the millionaire developer, Mr. DeMarzo, who did not have to have his application accepted for rezoning? Where's that fervor? What makes the difference here? He had no right to develop that property under R7 or for commercial purposes. You gave him that right. You were not representing those people in the same way you attempted to represent the people in reference to the cell tower. Thank you.
Angie Musser Mateo.
Good evening. My name is Angie Master Mateo. I live on Newcrest Drive. Since I've been retired, I had time to take an interest in town government, and you probably all are aware that I focus on process. Now, we all, myself included, were so excited about the I project. Unfortunately, we lacked the knowledge and information of what it takes to go from concept to final approval, such as traffic, sewage, water drainage, how you do away with a road. And as a result, it created frustration. Also, as a result, our Mr. Peter Wayner and our town planning board, I feel, received unfavorable, they received criticism and unfavorable PR for exercising due diligence in the planning board process. They are mandated to look at codes and legalities. And we failed to have that information and knowledge. Mr. Wayner tried to explain that to us at the second meeting of the planning board. He did a fairly good job, but it's my feeling that we all need an expansion of that education process. either in a series in the town paper or a video, and it would help to prevent frustration on the part of the presenters, the planning board, and the citizens. I also have observed at the planning board, in attending the meetings or watching on ICAT, that they are forced or they have to make judgments on projects or issues that occasionally they receive the information the morning of their meeting, before the meeting, or no information. This isn't fair to them, to the presenters, or to the citizens of the town who are interested in pursuing and looking at all the aspects, be they positive or negative. And so I'm wondering if perhaps the planning board itself would consider making a recommendation that before their meetings, they be given, be it a week or whatever, is considered legitimate amount of time to study serious issues. I don't know whether they all have full-time jobs or not, but in my mind, that wouldn't impact things as much as that they have the information they need with sufficient time to study it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Angie.
And I really want to commend the planning board because it was rough on them.
And they are an extremely intelligent, highly professional, well-skilled board. Unfortunately, Angie, some of those things were coming in last minute and through no fault of any employee or the planning board. It's just the way things work. And government does move slowly, and sometimes we have to wing it pretty quickly, too, when things come in. So your comments and suggestions are duly noted, and we shall work on those. Lisa Slater.
I'm Lisa Slater, and I reside at 1094 Winona Boulevard. In light of the judge's decision of our town's cell tower case, we are disappointed. But that news is so 12 seconds ago, to quote a popular TV ad for 4G coverage. Personally, I remain offended with Verizon's nationwide tactics to force towers into neighborhoods, their sights set on ruling the air, with little regard for the impacts for the residents. It's no surprise to Verizon. A company spokesman admitted Verizon has encountered opposition to cell phone towers in virtually every municipality around the U.S., as he addressed a similar tower issue in Hempstead, New York. I was disappointed to realize that as a community, we were ultimately let down, by the St. Paul Fire District, which entered into this contract without any review or discussion with town officials or the community at large. We commend our town board, who patiently listened to the residents' concerns and advocated on their behalf to find a better solution for all parties. And we applaud the residents themselves who spent countless hours researching this issue and canvassing the neighborhoods to educate and communicate news to others. We thank all of you for your support and for your help. We regret that previous town administrations failed to keep abreast of the developments of tower siting issues and didn't keep our town code refreshed in this area. The federal government maintains that it is the local zoning authorities that control placement and design. Yet town after town experiences what we have gone through this past year. We ask this administration to act soon to amend the zoning codes, not to ban towers, which is prohibited, but to promote their most responsible placement and to control the aesthetic and design qualities of those placed. We also ask them to remain vigilant and to follow the lead of New York Congresswoman Carolyn B. Maloney, who requested that the FCC inspect cell towers in instances where she believed the agency's rules may have been violated. I have learned of this tower contract in the summer of 2010, and later learned that Verizon had sought the lease for this one site for several years prior. Throughout this time, our residents waited and watched while the fire district communications were reported good, as noted in the meetings that we had foiled. Arundecoit experienced no security threats, and Verizon customers were not disadvantaged, aside from the loss of hard-earned wages to pay their monthly bills. My point is nothing terrible happened. The sky didn't fall, and no one was traumatized because we did not have this tower. For the very small pocket of Verizon-only coverage this tower may offer, we are court-ordered to ruin the face of Cooper Road and, more importantly, its surrounding neighborhoods. My neighborhood will never be the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah, were you speaking tonight?
I had sent you that email this morning. I didn't know if you wanted me to. Deborah Genrich, 375 and 395 Cooper Road. Again, I'd like to commend the town board and Supervisor DeRizio. I think you all did a spectacular job in advocating again for the residents. I also am disappointed with the judge's decision. Most importantly, though, I would hope, as I am exactly Verizon's neighbor, can't get any closer, that you would at least reconsider the amended application or the amendment that you had put forth at one point for the 100-foot tower. It appeared to me when I was reading the court documents that the judge had approved the 120-foot. I think in the spirit of good neighborly integrity, whatever you want to call it, the 100-foot that you admitted would be sufficient. Just to build the 120-foot because you can, I'm not so sure that's the right decision. I also just wanted to make sure, as I stated in the email to you, that there's financial responsibility down the line when the cell tower is obsolete for dismantling, removal, and getting everything back to the way it should be. Because I really believe that that probably won't be in the very distant future when that technology is just not needed with that cell tower. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else that I had missed? Since the news has released, I've been receiving numerous emails from people out in other towns, and they watched with interest because Verizon is a partner with Alcatel-Lucent, who does have technology that's coming down the road that diminishes the impact of the cell towers. And I do want Mr. Bergdorf to understand that many people spent a great deal of time researching the new technology. They just wanted to see that technology be propagated throughout particularly very densely populated suburbs like Arundecoit that are less than 16 square miles with no developable land. So, okay, anyone else? Well, let's move on to the financial report.
First, I will provide the 2011 year-end performance results update. The tentative before closing 2011 report as of 1/31/2012. You have two reports in front of you. As indicated last month, our books will remain open for several months for outstanding revenue, bills for service, and goods received for 2011, and required closing entries and adjustments. I will provide another 2011 year-end monthly update at next month's board meeting. The updates will allow us to understand how the finances are shaping up as we progress through the year-end closing. The town's auditing firm, Freed Maxick CPAs, P.C., will perform the annual audit and generate the 2011 financial statements during the second quarter. After completing those processes, A presentation of the town's financial condition will be made to the town board at a mid-year workshop meeting. Highlights of the town's financial status will be shared with the public at a subsequent town board meeting. The report of the 2011 financial results for the town as of January 31st, 2012. Total expenditures and encumbrances for the town are $28,755,028, equating to 93% of the budget. The expenditures are $28,488,891, and the encumbrances are another $266,137. The year-to-date percentage of 93% is favorable compared to the annual budget. The general fund continues to be favorable with expenditures and encumbrances at 91.3% of budget, or $16,153,516. Collectively, the highway funds are at 102.2% of budget, slightly higher than the budget. Contributing to the highway overrun were increased seasonal costs, primarily paving labor and asphalt purchases. Currently, the year-to-date expenditures and encumbrances for the highway are $5,814,190, which is $124,067 greater than budget. If you refer to the highway revenue on page 2, you will realize that the revenue received is $6,058,281. That amount is $244,091 greater than the 2011 expenditures noted on page 1 for the highway funds. The library, sewer, and drainage funds continue to be lower than budget. They are 95.6%, 86.8%, and 75.2% of the respective funds' budgets. The revenue for the general fund is $16,205,396, which equates to 92.1% of budget. The revenue received of $16 million as of 1/31/2012 is only $50,000 more than the 2011 expenses. However, since the publication of this report, we have received more than $800,000 in sales tax revenue. That revenue will be reflected in next month's update, next month's 2011 update. The majority of the town's revenue is in. We have yet to receive 1 month of sales tax, and that is in addition to the $800,000 that I just mentioned, 3 months of mortgage tax, and approximately 40% of the Time Warner franchise cable fees. As you can deduct from these comments, we expect to receive substantially more 2011 revenue than what currently appears on our 2011 update. Revenues in all other funds, as reported on page 2, round to 100% of budget or greater. For the total town, revenue received is 97.2% of budget. The second report is for the financial results for the town for January 2012. Total expenditures and encumbrances for the town are $4,247,343, which equates to 13.6% of budget. The 13.6% is to be compared to the 8.3% of the year that has elapsed. The $4,247,000 is comprised of expenditures of $2,073,723, and encumbrances of $2,173,620. For all of the major funds, the actual monies expended are within the 8.3 range or lower. However, the funds show a greater percent than 8.3, and that's due to encumbrance activity. High encumbrances are typical early in the year as departments set up and plan for the year. The general fund's expenses are in line with the town at 13% of budget. The 13% breaks down as follows: 7.3% expenditures and 5.7% encumbrances. The collective highway funds have encumbered and expended 19.3% of budget. Highway 1 has sizable encumbrances for gas and fuel, and Highway 3 has encumbered significant debt service that will be expensed later in the year. Again, these encumbrances are typical, especially early in the year. The library is at 7.9%, sewer at 10.3%, and stormwater drainage at 10% of budget, 10.6% of budget. The revenue for the general fund is $4,159,730, or 23.4% of budget. At the end of January, the town had received slightly more than one-third of its tax revenue and slightly less than one-third of its pilot revenue, payment in lieu of tax. The town as a whole has received 18.7% of revenue compared to 8.3% of the year that has elapsed. And this concludes the two reports, the two financial reports.
Just one of the things that I wanted on clarification from Patrick, please. We did have an order in for salt that we needed to order with our contract. Do we still need to have an order of salt for this contract in this current year, even though we have a salt barn full of salt?
We still have to order more salt before September of next year, September of this year,
Okay,
but we're looking in real good shape right now.
okay. All right. That's good. I still continue to look at every purchase order, and if I feel some encumbrances need to be reduced, I do it. We do know that we have certain funds that we must develop. We need to develop a capital reserve fund for future equipment as equipment becomes obsolete. So we are continually trying to build these fund balances in order to create those funds for the financial security of the town. Okay, Bart.
Approval of minutes, January 18, 2012, the workshop meeting.
Moved.
Second.
Any additions, corrections? Did anyone find? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to accept as presented?
So moved.
Oh, you already?
We already have the motion.
All in favor?
Thank you. It's because I'm so concerned that I remember I have to abstain. Yes, okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting, say aye.
Aye.
And my abstention, and Mrs. Esley is absent. Thank you. That was what I was so worried about, was voting.
January 24, 2012, the regular town board meeting.
Motion,
Moved.
second.
Second.
Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Public hearings.
Yes. All right. In the matter of the update for the Town Comprehensive Plan held over from November 15th, 2011, regular town board meeting, I would like to ask for a motion to resume this public hearing.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
And give anyone else the opportunity to speak during this public hearing on the comprehensive plan before We have a motion to... Richard?
Richard Barone, 154 Allwood Drive. The master plan that's in effect at this moment in time was adopted in 1985. And then, since 1985, and even in 1985, this town was basically considered to be fully developed, except for steep slopes where you could not build. Some steep slopes were available to build with some difficulty. The Winding Woods area be a case in point, which had its own problems because of the sloped area and the drainage and so forth. So what I'm saying to the board tonight is that the master plan, I don't see where you can make substantial changes in the master plan because the town hasn't changed. We have not increased the acreage. We have had some development in some areas, but there isn't hardly anything left. Yes, you can fine tune, but I'd like to give your attention to what is called the LaSalle Landing area, which is about 2/3 or 3/4 owned by Penfield. Not owned by Penfield, but in the town of Penfield, rather. Some years ago, probably about 10 years ago, this town rezoned it, or changed the zoning requirements with all kinds of visions on how things were going to be improved and so forth. The problem was the requirements the town made on this area for redevelopment, because it was fully developed down there, were so restrictive. There's been no development in that area, except just a rebuilding of a restaurant, which is now Bezos. So the point being is that you're looking at reconstruction or revitalizing, for example, the Ridge Road area, and changing things in that area to provide for, say, new types of businesses, mixed-use businesses, that sort of thing, which I would fully support. In the residential areas, or residential areas that are close to business and commercial area, you have more of a difficulty in doing things there because of the residential nature and of single-family homes. So I don't think the town residents have heard from the town board as to what you're thinking of doing with the master plan. There hasn't been anything that I've seen where there's proposed major changes. If the town board or any town board members have ideas on making changes, I would ask that those should come forth so that the public can speak on that and not close this hearing tonight. If there aren't any things that the town board members want to propose, fine. At least we've had the ability to look at what is on the table. But if there's something that board members want to do, give the town residents the opportunity to speak on that matter, and therefore not close this hearing if that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a very lengthy, detailed document that needs to be read from cover to cover. So I would seek your input.
Madam Supervisor, we've held this hearing open for a month, and I think that I haven't heard, through email, letters, phone calls, whatever, no one has indicated to me that they haven't had enough time or that they need more time to examine these documents. This has been a long time in the making. A lot of people have participated. I attended one of the recent meetings held by the firm that helped us with this document, and it was well attended. And it seems to me that, when somebody stops me in Dunkin' Donuts or wherever to talk to me about the master plan, it is to finish it, get it going, put it in place. And it's my sense that that we don't need any more time.
Okay.
I would concur. I would also. I mean, this master plan probably goes back about 3-4 years now. I did sit on one of the committees that when it first came. I believe everybody on that board collectively had opinions on a lot of the situations on the master plan. and I think it's time to move this document forward. And I believe going forward, we give it to the planning board after it's, and then they look it over as well. So there is still some more progression for that master plan.
To do that first, or? I'm not sure Larry would know. Okay. Larry?
Yes.
Would it behoove us to send it to the planning board for final evaluation before the board adopts?
I don't see where that would hurt anything. You're basically discussing of closing the public hearing tonight. You could always reopen a public hearing if you wanted to, but if you want to refer it to the planning board I think that's a perfectly fine idea.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, sure. We'll close the public hearing, all right?
Okay.
Okay.
So let us do that. We will close the public hearing tonight. Oh, yes, Angie?
I just have a question. And I don't know if this is involved in the master plan or not, but when I was here to pay my taxes, I happened to see on the bulletin board, I noticed about community block grants for low and moderate income housing. And allegedly, those will go in certain areas of Arundequoit. And I'm curious as to where those areas are, and are they included in the master plan, or does not that matter?
The CDBG areas are determined through the census program. So that map would have been updated, correct me if I'm wrong, Annie, with the 2010 census. And money needs to go into specific areas to improve those areas, or to certain residents who qualify under various parts of the program. There's many programs that's in CDBG.
Right, but was my understanding, and it may be incorrect, that notice was an invitation to people who wanted to build projects to apply in these areas. And I'm not aware of where these areas are in Arundequoit, and if those are areas that the taxpayers in Arundequoit should be aware of, since they're going to be given out with everyone's tax money because they're HUD grants. And people need to know what's going to be considered low and what's going to be considered moderate and where they're going.
This Thanksgiving, my cousin out of Senator Lugar's office was here, and I had a nice conversation with him about CDBG. It's anticipated this year will be at least 12% reduction, and he feels that CDBG probably will not be around in a couple of years. So I think it's imperative as we go through the process this year that that money is expended in the best ways that it can, because it is going to be eliminated as they try to reduce the national deficit.
The maps from the 2010 census have not been distributed yet. So
Okay, and we don't have those then, Angie.
Will we have access to those maps shortly?
I don't know exactly when we will receive them. I've asked the question. It's going to be later in the year, mid-year. And yes, when they come in, they will be in my office.
Well, will they then be considered part of the master plan or separate from?
That's separate.
Yeah, I would say that has to be separate because it's just a grant program, and it's probably going to be short-lived.
Thank you.
All right. So pardon me?
The resolution.
I just read this part. Okay. All right, on to the resolution. Whereas the Town of Arundecoit Town Board has received a proposed update to the Town Comprehensive Plan from the committee appointed to prepare the document, and whereas Section 272A of the Town Code calls for the Town Board to hold a public hearing prior to the adoption of such a proposed plan, and whereas a public hearing was held November 15th, 2011, and was held open to follow the additional public comments at subsequent regular meetings of the Town Board, and whereas the Town Board held regular meetings on December 20th, 2011, January 24th, 2012, and February 23rd, 2012, at which members of the public had the opportunity to comment on the proposed plan, now therefore be resolved that the Town Board hereby closes the public hearing on the proposed update of the Town Comprehensive Plan. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Public hearing PH 1A 2012-1 in the matter of abandonment of Union Park. Public hearing held open from January 24th, 2012, the regular Town Board meeting.
And I would like a motion to resume the public hearing on the abandonment of Union Park.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And at this time, I would like to ask anyone else who would like to speak about the abandonment of Union Park. Yeah, I know, Richard, you've got to get your money's worth out of this.
Richard Barone, 154 Allwood Drive. I sat at the planning board meeting when this issue came up with Mr. Nolan, and I was flabbergasted because it appeared to me that all of a sudden, from the dais, the chairman of the planning board was indicating to Mr. Nolan a whole bunch of things that had never been directed to him that he had to comply with. The chairman of the planning board did not indicate he was reading from a letter that had previously been sent to Mr. Nolan. It looked like there were 5, I believe, items, substantial items, that all of a sudden were dropped in his lap and he had to comply with at this late date. My concern is the issues that were brought up on the abandonment of the property, that I haven't seen anything yet publicly anyways, unless I missed it, and that is, do you have something in writing indicating you have a legal right to abandon this property? 1. 2, do you have a provision that the property owner, any property owners in the area, will not be closed off from using their own property? You have that in writing. You already lost one lawsuit. I suggest that you have things in writing, not verbally, on legal opinions of this magnitude. This is big. This is not a small issue. You're taking away a road. Number 2, seeker. Have you complied with seeker on this issue? Have you done any kind of coordination with the county? Do you have something in writing from the county on this? If not, you cannot, in my opinion, abandon that road. I think this is a good project, don't get me wrong. But, you know, it's a major project, it's big. We have a good applicant here, it appears. He's willing to put money in. He's already spent money, a lot of money. And he needs to be treated in a very fair way, which means that the town board and the town officials have to do your homework. But don't rely upon verbal statements. You go into court, and in my opinion, you go into court and you say, well, we were told this. Well, where is it in writing? You have papers galore on some minor stuff that you approve, but major stuff like this, you should have something in writing from the county, from the town attorney, or whatever attorney is involved with this. I'm concerned, having sat on, as an official of this town, I know there's a lot to this that has not come out publicly. Don't be in a rush to abandon that property. And I always had a problem when town boards, and I would never do it, where you approve something contingent upon something else happening. Now, if it's a minor thing happening, like somebody has to dot an I across a T, you can vote on something and say contingent upon their getting a notary stamp or something like that. Fine. But to make an approval based upon a contingent major thing happening, like allowing a property owner to have access to his property, that's major. I don't think you should make that approval contingent upon a major thing happening down the line. At some point, and I know the courts have ruled on this, you cannot delegate your authority to make a decision. Your voting authority has to be done by you. You can't delegate it to Mr. Heininger that he will be the contingency operator to make sure something is done. So, as much as I want to see this project go ahead, please, unless you have things in writing, unless you have something from the county, because the county is involved with roads, it's contiguous to a county road. You're dealing with the county. I don't see how you cannot have something from the county because you're moving a road that goes into a county road. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Sidoti, Esquire, would you like to address that? We would appreciate it.
And then maybe Larry.
Yep, and then Larry. Mhm.
Frank Sidoti, I'm the attorney for the House of Guitars, and my office is at 1215 Alliance Building. Bob Kiefer, the engineer, submitted the proposed subdivision map to me of the entire project with lot numbers, and that subdivision map shows the location of the new street, Cooper Road Extension, and also shows a dedicated street from Cooper Road Extension to the east line of the House of Guitars property with the proposed name of Music Way. What you're approving is that subdivision map, and as I understand it, that subdivision map will be filed, and that's what controls access and the ability to use highways. So I feel comfortable that the subdivision map is a written document and protects the town and protects my client. So I don't know if that helps or not.
The only thing I would ask of your client, I like the name Music Way. I'm hoping maybe there might be some musical notes on the sign or some instruments or something, just to add more to it.
I'm sure that probably can be arranged.
Thank you.
Okay.
Larry, would you like to speak?
Sure. This is for everybody in the audience and those people watching at home on television. We received the official application from Mike Nolan's agent, T.Y. Lin International, on December 23rd, which was the Friday before the three-day Christmas weekend. We sent the required number of copies down to Monroe County Planning under Section 239 of state law for the intermunicipal review because the project abuts the county highway, Titus Avenue. At about 4:45, I've got an email on my town BlackBerry that I had a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, the 27th, at the I-Squared offices with Terry Rice, Director of Monroe County DOT, Pat Meredith sitting next to me, and Bob Kiefer, Mike Nolan. At that time, we discussed the project, and Terry Rice said that the county would need a traffic study, which Mike had been advised of all along by us and Bob Kiefer. And the study was delivered to the town on January 30th. Now, not having that study, that is why the board could not close seeker, because we couldn't finish parts 2 and part 3 of the EAF long form with impact on transportation without that study. We also didn't have a drainage study at that time, so we couldn't take care of that part of seeker at the planning board meeting on the 23rd. And of course, you met the next day on the 24th. And the other thing that we didn't have is we didn't have this agreement between the House of Guitars, the town of Arundecoit, and Mike Nolan I Squared, and Councilman Marasco and Councilman Perticone met with Mike and his agents on Friday, the 27th, so that we could discuss these agreements, and Bob Kiefer was the one that probably came up with the most elegant solution. Ultimately, that got worked into having this stub right-of-way Music Way. And that name has been approved by 911. So we now have the subdivision map. The planning board was able to approve this at their meeting on the 13th. We had a special meeting to allow this to move forward. We got our county comments on February 9th. We got the county comments back that accepted the traffic study. And the interesting parts of the traffic study are that in about 3 years, the county has scheduled, Titus is scheduled for repaving and restriping, and at that time, they will evaluate the intersection to see how it's working and see whether or not they can reduce the right turn lane going north on Cooper in front of Pasatino Sports and go back to just 4 lanes. And the other thing that they said in their 4 bullets of their letter was that the master plan for Cooper Hudson Titus talks about a connection from the corner of Grange and Stranahan out to Hudson. That is not part of the plan, but they indicated that the roughly 200 cars that are going to come in and out of this project, peak times being in the afternoon and also surprisingly Saturday afternoon, which makes sense. People are going down there to have a good time and have dinner. But if that connection was made to Titus, that then they would reevaluate the new road, which is currently 1 lane in and 1 lane out, and then they would reevaluate to whether or not they needed 2 lanes going out, and you would have to have a dedicated left turn or left and straight. So we received the county comments. Patrick, asked for a favor that we could have this turned around in probably what was a week and a half. I received the actual letter in the mail on Monday the 13th before the board meeting, so this kind of ties in with what Angie was saying about us having to really move this puck along quickly. That brings us to tonight, where if Patrick reads his resolution, it goes on for a page and a half with the whereases and the wherefores. Unless all of these things fall into place and reviewed by the attorney for the town, there will be no plat map filed, there will be no abandonment of the road, but right now, everything is, pointing north, and we're all going in that direction. That's all I have to say, unless you have questions.
Thank you. Does anyone
Oh, and
else?
by the way, you do have a seeker neg deck for the action that you're taking, which is the abandonment. There was a seeker neg deck for the actions that the planning board took, which is a subdivision approval, and also the site plan approval. Those are 2 separate actions. Both of them are unlisted actions under seeker, which allowed us to do this in less than 30 days, which would have been required for a type 1 action.
Thank you, Larry. Okay. All right, let us move then on to the resolution to close the public hearing on the abandonment of Union Park.
So moved.
Second.
Let me just read a couple of things to make sure that the I-Square project will require the abandonment of Union Park and the construction of the new road known as Cooper Road Extension, whatever that name shall be. Has received the recommendation from the planning board to abandon Union Park, subject to the appropriate map and description, the new Cooper Road Extension being functional as determined by the superintendent of highways prior to the demolition of Union Park, and that the town code calls for the town board to hold the public hearing prior to the abandonment, which we have done, and that the public hearing was held on January 24th and February 23rd and held open for additional comments. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board closes the public hearing. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank
John.
you.
John, second.
Did you say something, Brian?
I had a first and a
And a
second.
second, Gene, first and a second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Items for board action. Item 2A, 2012-1, approving special use permit to construct and operate a 120-foot-high telecommunications tower, rooftop equipment, and other associated improvements on premises at 433 Cooper Road.
I've been asked to read this. Whereas, on June 18th, 2010, Nixon Peabody LLP, acting as an agent for Bell Atlantic Mobile of Rochester LP, DBA Verizon Wireless, requested a special use permit to construct and operate a 120-foot-high telecommunications tower, rooftop equipment, and other associated improvements on the premises of 433 Cooper Road. And whereas such special use permit is allowed pursuant to Section 235-132.b of the Code of the Town of Arundecoit, and whereas the St. Paul Boulevard Fire District owns said premises and has consented to the application, and whereas the Town Board held a public hearing on the application on Tuesday, July 27th, 2010, and all parties entitled to be heard were heard. And whereas on February 15th, 2011, the Town Board issued a positive declaration under SECRA requiring Verizon Wireless to prepare a draft scope for an environmental impact statement. And whereas Verizon Wireless did not submit such documentation and instead, on March 18th, 2011, commenced a lawsuit against the town in federal court seeking a permanent, mandatory injunction ordering the issuance of the special use permit. And whereas on January 31st, 2012, the United States District Court, Western District of New York, the Honorable Charles J. Siragusa, issued a decision and order granting the requested permanent mandatory injunction and ordering the town to issue the special use permit to Verizon Wireless. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby approves the special use permit as ordered by the United States District Court, Western District of New York. The resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second?
Yes.
Madam Supervisor, through you, a question for council. Are we compelled to vote by this order, or does the order simply compel the issuance of the permit by whatever permit granting department we have in the town?
My understanding, and let me just say that my understanding of this comes from the way in which the town issues the special use permits, that it's the town board that issues the special use permits, not any individual or department within the town, and that the decision of the judge requires the issuance of the special use permit, which requires a majority of vote and approval by the town board.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm appalled at Judge Siragusa's decision. I think it's the wrong decision. I don't think that he listened fully to our side. And, he's made a very strong order, and we have to obey the law. But I think I know how Al Gore probably felt at the Supreme Court decision. It's really appalling, and it's very unfortunate for our town.
Just a couple of comments. I was the one way in the beginning. I wanted a secret process with this, and the attorney at the time didn't want a secret process because it would take too long. And then we find out in the end, Verizon didn't even, consider a secret process. I believe that they kept talking at the podium quite a bit, alternative sites. I believe there was an alternative site that they could have looked at. I believe the school considered possibly putting a tower over there, but I think they were dead set on this site. I am also kind of, not appalled at the decision by Saragusa, but it's a federal court ordered now, and reluctantly, we have to move forward with this permit process. So you need a second. Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Roll call.
You want a roll call vote?
Councilwoman Aldersley?
Under protest, aye.
Councilman Marosca?
Aye.
Councilman Perdicone?
Reluctantly, but aye.
Supervisor DeRizio?
You don't have to.
I have to chuckle. Every time Richard Barone sends me a letter, and he has a quote of Thomas Jefferson on the bottom. And what he doesn't understand is, he may be a Jeffersonian, but I am a John Adams. I just came back from the Association of Towns, and how we were there stressing the importance of home rule, the fact that your local government is the government that's closest to you, in which we work together to preserve what we have locally. And it's just disturbing that we knew we had two other viable sites. We knew that. The competitors told us. We knew it. In fact, we asked Seeker back before Mr. Bergdorf came on the case. We weren't stalling. We wanted to have a process followed for our residents, because this town is the most beautiful town in Monroe County. We don't have the land that exists elsewhere. We have the walkable, beautiful streets and neighborhoods. And Mr. Barone alluded to, we're going through this process with the project on Titus the same way. We want all the information to make the decision. We have no choice. Contrary to the decision, I am a law-abiding citizen. I even set my cruise control at the speed limit. Did you hear that, Lieutenant? Okay. So with a very saddened heart and disappointment that we lose control locally over our lives, I vote aye. Motion carries.
Item 2A, 2012-2, authorizing capital lease financing of a Caterpillar 420E IT loader backhoe to be used by the Parks and Recreation Department.
Whereas the town board by resolution 2012-021 has authorized the acquisition of a Caterpillar 420E IT loader backhoe to be used by the Parks and Recreation Department. Whereas it is necessary to provide financing of the new equipment through a capital lease consistent with the plan in the 2012 operating budget of the Parks and Recreation Department. And whereas quotes were received from several firms which provide lease financing with the lowest cost quote that of First Niagara Leasing Incorporated. And whereas funding for the 2012 lease payment is available in account 001-9785-6050-8810. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes capital lease financing for the acquisition of a Caterpillar 420E IT loader backhoe to be used in the Parks and Recreation Department in the total amount of $91,967 with First Niagara Leasing Incorporated.
Motion?
Moved.
Second. Who would like to speak to this? Peter?
This is the second part of a two-part process. Last month, the board approved the go-ahead to purchase with it. This second part, the comptroller leads to secure the financing for it and the best financing available. So that's about all I can talk to tonight, but if you have further questions on the financing part, I'm sure Annie can speak to it.
I sent out a request for quotes to three entities, First Niagara, M&T, and Chase Leasing, or Real M&T, Real Lease for M&T and Chase Leasing. First Niagara and M&T each responded with rates. Chase Leasing basically responds to $175,000 or greater. It's a bigger business, and so between First Niagara and M&T, the First Niagara rate was superior to the M&T rate. It's a rate of 2.24% for 5 years.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? And Peter, this is going to be used mostly in that real estate over on Culver Road where more of our residents could invest for the future?
Yes, that is the Irondequoit Cemetery. You're correct.
There are still areas available, so we always need to think about the future. Hearing no further discussion, my mother tells me that all the time. Let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Item 2A, 2012-3, authorizing an amendment to the 2012 budget of Irondequoit Cable Access Television.
Annie, do you want to read this for Nate?
Sure.
Nate's unable to come up.
Whereas the Irondequoit Cable Access Television Station has identified the need to make purchases to improve the quality of productions, and whereas these purchases will increase the quality of programs such as educational and informational meetings, studio productions, field productions, special events such as parades, Oktoberfest, ceremonies, etc., and whereas the 2012 budget of ICAT includes a total amount necessary to pay for this expense, but would require an appropriation transfer to place the funding in the correct line item for equipment. The appropriation transfer is as follows. $4,100 would be moved from for supplies accounts into equipment account, $4,100. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board approves an appropriation transfer in the total amount of $4,100 from several non-equipment line items within the 2012 budget of ICAT to account 001-7989-2130 equipment.
So as you can see, these are supplies that are being moved
Sure.
over to equipment. Motion?
Motion.
Second. I'll second it. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Item 2A, 2012-4, promoting an employee in the Public Works Department to maintenance mechanic.
Motion?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Who would like to read this for us? Beth or Patrick?
I'll let Beth start off.
I'll read through the resolution. Whereas due to a previous promotion, there is a vacancy for a maintenance mechanic 1 in the Department of Public Works. Whereas the Commissioner has interviewed and selected Leonard Gessen, who he feels is the best qualified to fill the position of maintenance mechanic 1. Whereas the Commissioner wishes to promote Leonard Gessen to a full-time position of maintenance mechanic 1 per civil service laws. And whereas this position is represented by the CSEA Blue Collar Unit and was posted per contract guidelines. Now therefore be it resolved that the Arundecoit Town Board appoints Leonard Gessen as a maintenance mechanic 1 in the Department of Public Works at a rate of $24.26 per hour from budget code 023-5130-100-1100. This resolution will take effect upon its adoption.
Thank you.
Mr. Gessen has been an employee of the town of Arundecoit since October of 1998. He came in as an audit mechanic, has moved his way up to senior audit mechanic, and then maintenance, and now into a maintenance mechanic 1 position. As you know, last month we did promote the maintenance mechanic to the labor foreman, auto mechanic foreman position, and that's where this vacancy occurred. Mr. Gessen comes educated from Alfred Tech with many years of experience in heavy equipment and along with all vehicles. So I think Patrick would like to speak more.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention some of the things that Beth had mentioned here, that he's, been an employee here for the town for 14 years. His education is an associate's degree in specializing in heavy equipment, truck and diesel service from Alfred State College. And I'm also happy to report that he is an employee in good standing and has served the town well, keeping our fleet serviced. And I would also like to introduce him. He's here in the audience. And Lenny, if you'd please stand up. Thanks, Lenny.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And congratulations to you, Len.
Item 2A, 2012-5, declaring equipment surplus and authorizing the equipment disposal.
Motion?
Moved.
Second? Thank you. All right. Peter? Or Patrick on this one?
I can jump in.
Okay.
Each year, our department and Parks and Rec, as we're going through the budget process, work on determining what equipment is best to go to auction. And we try to do it such that it's done in a timely fashion so that we can still get a decent amount in return. Our budgets are also, we figure out, from that, we figure out what our revenue is going to be, and it helps us determine what we'll be able to expend during the year. So included in the resolution is a list of the equipment from the DPW department and also the Parks and Rec department that will be going up for auction in May.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, I guess the auction is in March, per the resolution.
Yes. Okay, no discussion? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Item 2A, 2012-6, adopt a resolution abandoning Union Park.
Motion?
Move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Patrick.
Whereas the I-Square project will require the abandonment of Union Park, right-of-way 39.5 feet, and the construction of two new roads, Road A, or Baker's Park, and Road B, Music Way, and whereas Union Park is a public road within the town of Arundecoit, and whereas the Commissioner of Public Works has declared that Union Park can be abandoned per Schedule A, and whereas the town of Arundecoit held a public hearing on January 24th, 2012, and February 23rd, 2012, where any and all persons had the opportunity to be heard regarding the proposed abandonment, and whereas Schedule B and Schedule C depict the specific premises of Union Park that will be abandoned, and whereas the developer of I-Square will have the two new roads installed with Road A, 60-foot wide right-of-way approximately parallel to the abandoned Union Park on the easterly side and lining up with the road directly across the street from the street of Titus Avenue that is named Cooper Road, and Road B, 60-foot right-of-way, leading directly to the easterly property line of Arundecoit Appliance Outlet, Inc. and Musi Realty, SBL number 076.15-6-13.1, as shown in Schedules D and E, and whereas the abandonment of Union Park and dedication of the new roads are furthermore contingent upon conformance with approved engineering plans and specifications, and whereas further agreements, including a temporary easement, license agreements, and/or other agreements by and among the I-Square developer, the town of Arundecoit, Arundecoit Appliance Outlet, Inc., and Musi Realty must be negotiated regarding Road B as generally described in Schedule F. And whereas this right-of-way abandonment I'm sorry, you threw me off here. Whereas the town board is lead agency under SECRA for purposes of actions involving town roads, now therefore be resolved that the town board finds that the proposed abandonment of Union Park is an unlisted action. It would not have a significant environmental impact, and be it further resolved that, subject to receipt and approval by the town supervisor and attorney to the town of both satisfactory documentation of conformance with plans and specifications, as well as the required agreements contemplated by the parties and described above, the town board hereby approves the abandonment of Union Park.
So I have another copy for Larry, too. Those last two paragraphs needed to be changed. Okay, so I have a copy for Larry, too. Any discussion?
I wasn't sure. I heard that it was contingent upon the agreements with them and the House of Guitars in there. Was that in there?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a letter dated February 20th. Did you see
I
that?
see the letter, but I didn't hear that in the resolution. I just want to make sure that was
Right.
considered.
That's the Schedule F that we discussed in the resolution.
Okay.
Okay to you? Okay. That looks fine to you?
Looks good.
Okay. Because it's true, we want to make sure everything is inclusive in this. Any discussion, any questions?
No, I just want to make a comment. Larry talked about this. The Friday after our last board meeting, Paul and I met. All the representatives were in the room talking about the House of Guitars and the agreement that was in, that was talked about. And I believe the meeting went well. I mean, cool heads prevailed. It was a good meeting, and I think everyone involved in that room did a lot of work in the last couple of weeks to get to this point right here. So I just want to, make sure people in that room get credit, from the Nolans, to Larry, to our staff, and Leslie DeCesar, who represents the Nolans there too, worked extremely hard to get to this point. Because I think at that meeting, it was just up in the air. It was a couple days after our last board meeting, but I think after that meeting, a considerable amount of work was done to get to this point. And it's a good project, and I think we got a good document in front of us to approve.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Item 2A, 2012-7, filling a Conservation Board vacancy.
Motion? Second.
Second.
Thank you. Whereas a vacancy on the Arundecoit Conservation Board exists, and the town board desires to appoint Ryan Matthew Loyson as a member to serve until the term's expiration, which expires December 31st, 2013, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Arundecoit hereby approve the appointment of Ryan M. Loyson, Conservation Board member, term expiring December 31st, 2013. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. Ryan, would you like to stand and be recognized? Let me tell you a little bit about him. An MS in Environmental Education, BS Environmental Conservation. He works for the Monroe County Parks Department in Recreation and Environmental Education, adjunct instructor in environmental science. His resume goes on and on with the zoo, scouting, the Y, the camps, phenomenal. And when I went to the Conservation Board meeting the other day and proposed that I was going to recommend Ryan, were they thrilled, because half of them knew who you were. So it's exciting. Thank you, Ryan, for stepping up to the plate. Any discussion or questions to ask him? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you for your volunteerism. And remember, we have a busy season ahead. Lots of workshop. We have a busy season ahead. Lots of workshops. We do quite a bit at the farmers market, so thank you.
Item 2A, 2012-8, approving Shamrock Jack Restaurant Annual St. Patrick's Day Festival. And since the printing of the agenda, the insurance approval did come through from our carrier.
Okay.
Good. Motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Barbara, would you like to read it?
Whereas the town clerk's office received an application from Shamrock Jack's Restaurant to conduct their annual St. Patrick's Day Festival, and whereas this event will be conducted both inside their current business location at 4554 Culver Road and outside in a temporary tent structure located on the property, and whereas this temporary tent structure will be erected on Friday, March 16, and taken down on Monday, March 19th, and whereas this tent will be used for serving food, beverages, and entertainment purposes with no cooking, smoking, or open flame activities, and whereas insurance has been reviewed and approved by the town insurance carrier, now therefore be it resolved that the town board approves the license for Shamrock Jack's Restaurant to conduct their annual St. Patrick's Day Festival on March 17th, 2012, from noon to 10 p.m., and this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption.
Any discussion?
Now, I'm just going to note that I understand the word smoking to refer to smoking food. and the patrons would probably be able to smoke. Is that correct?
I didn't think they were allowed to.
Under a tent?
They can't smoke
No.
outside? They do now.
Yeah, but not under the tent.
Not under the tent. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
No. Yeah. Any other discussion?
That was all approved, and the fire marshal, Greg Merrick, helped quite a bit on this
Yes, he has.
application.
So, any other discussion? Hearing none, let us vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And that concludes the regular agenda of the town board. I would like to have a motion, please, to go into a quick executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person.
Mary Jo, just before we go into executive session, I'll just make a comment.
Sure.
I got this forwarded to me by our county legislator, Vincent Esposito, today. I just want to read a couple of things that maybe people in the town aren't aware of, the county projects that are going around in Arundecoit. Obviously, the East Ridge Road construction project is going to be going from the post office all the way over to Culver Road. Portland Avenue is going to be starting their reconstruction as well. It's going to go from the hospital right up here to Titus Avenue. And maybe a couple of projects that people weren't aware of, they're going to be going around in the town that the Durane Eastman Park Water Management, they're going to do a new infiltration basin, and that's going to be reduce the water and sediment swelling into the parkland, streams, and swamps. And this project should alleviate some of the golf course flooding and also runoff pollution entering the swimming area at the beach. And Van Laer Treatment Plant is going to also doing a number of multi-million-dollar project upgrades there. The most notable replacement of all is the 20 aeration tanks, state-of-the-art technology that will improve the biograding process there. And also our I-Square project, and the Seneca Park Zoo is finishing up their Into Africa exhibit, a Step into Africa exhibit. So that's good. There's other projects going on in the town. I want to thank Vince for sending that stuff to me so I can talk about it tonight.
That's great. That's, in terms of the Van Laer treatment plant, Peter, Patrick, Larry, and I are going to be meeting with Mike Garland and a few of the representatives for the county on that. I think it's next week. All right, so if I could have a motion, please, to go into the executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person.
Moved.
And a second? Okay, we should be back very quickly. I would ask Mrs. Watrow and Mr. Heininger to join us in that executive session. returned from executive session in discussing the employment history of a particular person. And at this time, unless we have something for the good of the organization. No? Okay. They just wanted to come and see their fire commissioners.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment
So moved.
in a second. And this meeting is adjourned.